Amnesty International issued a warning to Azerbaijan and Armenia, saying they must immediately investigate the use of inaccurate and indiscriminate weapons in heavily populated residential areas. The calls for an investigation come after 6 weeks of fighting over the disputed Nagorno-Karabakh territory. Both sides have denied targeting civilians during this conflict, yet the right group puts the civilian death toll at 146 overall. Now, for more on this story, I'd like to welcome Marie Struthers to the programme. She's the Director for Eastern Europe and Central Asia at Amnesty International. She joins us from London by phone. Marie, I'd like to thank you very kindly for being with us this Thursday. Some extremely disturbing findings there. Weapons, including cluster munitions, were used, which are actually so harmful that they've been banned by more than 100 countries.
You're absolutely right, and thank you very much for the invitation. We were on the ground in both Azerbaijan and Armenia in late November and early December of last year. We were able to document 17 strikes that took place, and indeed we mapped out, sadly, a pattern, just as you have articulated, of the use of notoriously inaccurate and disproportionate weapons, including the cluster munitions, which led to at least 146 civilian deaths unnecessarily, including very young children and older people, and of course the destruction and damage caused to numerous homes and property. And it's really, sadly, it's a disregard, as you were saying in your introductory comments, for human life, because these weapons are banned under international humanitarian law. In fact, there's an international convention called the Convention Against Cluster Munitions, and we are strongly urging both the Azerbaijani and the Armenian authorities to take steps to sign up to that convention.
Absolutely, Marie. And we know that in addition to the civilians, thousands who were injured, there were also a number of journalists who were very badly injured. Among them, of course, Alain Cavall of Le Monde, the French newspaper.
Yes, that's correct. So it wasn't only civilians innocently in their homes or close to their homes and properties who were injured, but there were also journalists who were undertaking their professional obligations to tell the world what was going on. So we're calling in as well for immediate investigations into those types of incidents as well. I'd also like to add, sadly, the toll of civilian casualties would have been much higher had many people not already fled the areas that were hit or been hiding in their basements. So we're lucky to get away with that number. But not only should both sides take steps to sign up to the Convention Against Cluster Munitions as soon as possible, they should really conduct, as you were saying, an immediate transparent investigation as soon as possible and bring all of those responsible to justice. It's a good moment to do that, because the leaders are starting to talk about their security arrangements. So civil society and international interlocutors must continue to press for this investigation.
Now, Marie, I'll speak about the investigation in a moment. I just want to ask you a slightly more political question here. Do you also hold external backers of this conflict accountable in this report that you've issued? I'm talking about, of course, Turkey and Russia.
Yeah, our mandate is a rather limited one. We are limited to documenting the actual human rights violations we find and measuring or holding those up to international human rights and humanitarian law. What we're talking about here is the sad and unfortunate use by both sides of those weapons banned under international humanitarian law.
Indeed. And one last question for you. Are you at all optimistic that this investigation will actually be carried out? Earlier, you mentioned that leaders are starting to talk about their own security. Briefly, if you can.
I think it's the responsibility of the international community, those that have dealings with both of these governments, to continue to press as soon as possible. But not only the governments, it's civil society on both sides who sadly have, as we know, fallen into nationalistic rhetoric. And this should be rhetoric about holding human life up with dignity and justice.
Absolutely. Marie Struthers, I'd like to thank you immensely for being with us here on France 24 and sharing those very important insights with us.